This is the Louie T Network.
I'm ready for some football. I don't know about you. Who else could it be but your man Lou? Yeah.
Overtime! So we head to overtime.
Who else could it be but me, your me, Louie T? Welcome to Thursday Night Football Overtime. NFC West family business. If these two teams said they ain't did it, then they ain't did it. But if they did, well, that's family business. And you know how family business goes. You know how the family do it. Seattle Seahawks, Arizona Cardinals. We've watched these two teams on primetime television before. One time they played to a 7-7 tie with a ton of missed field goals and mistakes. These games are always close when family members lock horns. And this was a good football game. And we saw some injuries that could shape and change the course of each team's season. More so Seattle than Arizona. I think we already know what this Cardinals team is. Despite the effort we saw from them tonight, they're just not going to be good enough moving forward. I've already said that a number of times. But Seattle, some serious injuries tonight. We're going to discuss those as we go through this breakdown. But they were able to get the win 22-16 over the Arizona Cardinals. A big win. Keeps them perfect in the division now at 3-0. And I think that's what's going to all boil down to when it's all said and done. I've been a staunch supporter of the Seattle Seahawks. I've said from the jump, I have not wavered on my opinion. They're going to win this division. They're going to sweep the Rams. The Rams right now look like the best team in that division, but the Seahawks have already went to Los Angeles and beat the Rams. They've got them once more at home. How healthy are they for that game? We don't know, but I still have all of my money on the Seahawks to come out on top of this division when it's all said and done. And it's wins on the road like this. Los Angeles still has to come on the road against Arizona. Not an easy place to play, as you saw in this ball game. Nonetheless, Seattle able to get it done. And now, basically, they've handled the heavy-duty lifting in this division on the road. They've got to go on the road against San Francisco. No one's afraid of San Francisco on the road again. That could be a different team the next time Seattle sees them with Jimmy Garoppolo at the helm. It doesn't matter, though. It's still San Francisco. You're still supposed to find a way to win that game. Now you've got Arizona and Los Angeles at home. So you've taken care of the heavy lifting on the road in the division for the most part if you're Seattle with this win. But again, it came at a cost. We'll discuss a little bit later on in this breakdown. But thank you for joining me on this program as the Seattle Seahawks get it done 22-16 to go to 6-4 on the season. And the Seattle Seahawks are now just a half game or actually a game and a half behind just a full game back. Wait, they're the same number in the win column with the Rams, who the Seahawks haven't had their bye yet. And they've played an extra two games actually. So with the Rams having a game on Sunday, that lead will either be a full 2 games or it'll be 1 game. So they're a game and a half back right now of the Los Angeles Rams, 2 back in the loss column. So we'll see what happens on Sunday with the Rams as they're at home versus Houston, a game that you expect them to be able to take care of, but we'll see what happens there. Of course, I'm your man, Louie T. Thank you for joining me on this program. If you haven't already done so, subscribe to the Louie T Network for more great content in 2017 and beyond. We're changing the game. I want you to help us do that by simply hitting that subscribe button and becoming a member of the Louie T Network. There are a number of social media platforms that will keep you in tune to what's going on this channel. So when I go live, you'll know exactly when. If you turn on those notifications, there's Twitter, there's Facebook, there's Instagram, and of course, YouTube. Turn those notifications on Twitter and on YouTube to help you be in the know with the Louie T Network. All the links to those different social media platforms down in the description below. Also in the description below, how you can donate to this channel via Patreon or PayPal. Both of those links that you see on the screen right now before you, also down in the description. There's also a video on how you can get extra exclusive content on the Louie T Network, including a power ranking show, you can get the rookie wall, you can get the list, you can get the teed up show. All of these different shows could be yours if you are a member of Patreon in one of those tiers. So the video that will inform you on how you can get exclusive content here on the Louie T Network down in the description below, and the way you can donate to the channel also down in the description below this video and every single video I do. Special shout out to my man Sean Mack for giving his donation on Patreon, as well as Brandon Sullivan and also my man Andrew Kim. So big shout out to every single person that is donated via Patreon. Your donations are greatly valued here on the Louie T Network. That being said, let's jump into this breakdown. And we first start with the Seattle Seahawks. And I've got something to say about Twitter a little bit later on. Hopefully it doesn't escape my mind as we get into this breakdown. But let's get to what matters, and that's this football game and the Seattle Seahawks coming out on top 22-16 over the Arizona Cardinals. Let's start on the offensive side of football, because there's a ton to talk about, a ton to chew on defensively with Seattle in this game. So we'll start on the offensive side of the football. It's pretty much what I expected. This team in the Seahawks, they struggle to run the football, and that's really an understatement. They struggle mightily to run the football. It's something that really, since Marshawn Lynch has departed, they haven't been adept at doing. And the offensive line, which they thought they were upgrading with Dwayne Brown's assimilation into this lineup after the trade with Houston, he goes out in this game with an ankle injury, did not return to this football game. Don't know the severity of that injury, but it looks like a pretty serious ankle sprain at the minimum. Could be worse. Obviously, we don't know the information yet, but he did not return to the game. Normally, if you sprain your ankle and it's not too severe, you can come back in the game. The adrenaline is flowing. You normally can finish the game, and then you start to see the swelling take place the day after, and then that's when things start to get a little dicey moving forward. But he wasn't even able to re-enter the game. They had to go with Tobin for the remainder of the game. So that's a little scary if you're the Seahawks, because you invested in Dwayne Brown to come in and really fortify this offensive line. And it was starting to shape up into a group that you thought could really be solid moving forward, with the left tackle position, the biggest position along that offensive line, being handled. And with him leaving this game with a key injury, it really left Russell Wilson exposed on that left side, which has been the problem for the vast majority of this season. But they had issues all over that line. I thought Hassan Reddick got some good pressures in this game off the right side. And so Russell Wilson had to run around for his life, as he customarily does with this offensive line in front of him. But he made some big plays in this game, a couple to Jimmy Graham in the red zone for touchdowns. And that's the Jimmy Graham that the Seahawks signed up for when they went and got him from New Orleans. When they made the trade with New Orleans to go and acquire Jimmy Graham, that's the guy that they thought they were getting. That's the guy that in New Orleans was catching 10 to 12 to 14 touchdowns a season. Not the guy that disappears at games at a time for the Seattle Seahawks. That's Jimmy Graham's value right there. And I don't know if the Seahawks have really taken full advantage of what Jimmy Graham brings to the table, but I don't understand why they don't do that more often. Split the man out wide, one-on-one coverage, linebacker, safety, corner. It doesn't matter. He's going to have the advantage. He's 6'4", 6'5". He's 250, 60 pounds. He's got a great vertical. He's got strong hands. He's got a wide body. He's an ex-basketball player. He knows how to box out defenders. Throw him back shoulder fades. Throw him up jump balls, just like they used to do in New Orleans. It's easy money. It's like stealing. They did it in this game twice, and Jimmy Graham paid off huge dividends twice for the Seattle Seahawks in the red zone. And I want to see them do that a little bit more. I also want to see J.D. McKissic touch the football more. I don't think he touches it enough. He's a dynamic football player out of the backfield, and we all were ranting and raving about J.D. McKissic after the Colts game and how he could be such an asset and a weapon for this offense. And I simply don't think he touches it enough. I'd like to see him in the screen game. I'd like to see him, that toss that they gave him, that he got 18 on, I want to see more of him getting out on the perimeter and touching the football. Get him out of space. He's dynamic. He's an athlete. You saw the one-hand grab. even though it went nowhere. He's an athlete, ex-receiver, great hands. Use this guy as a weapon. You start him out in the backfield, motion him out, get you a one-on-one matchup. If they don't move, then you know it's zone coverage. So they're telling you what they're in, essentially zone or man, and then you can take advantage of it from there. But they need to use J.D. McKissic a little bit more. I think he's a weapon that they're not utilizing enough. P. Rich with a big catch right before the half that led to points. He's starting to come on this season, and I think he's a viable option as a number 2 after getting rid of Jermaine Kearse right before the season started. You needed somebody to step up. That man has been P. Rich this season, and good to see him continuing his solid play this season. Doug Baldwin with a huge catch. I thought his play on the sidelines with Russell Wilson with that Houdini act, running around like Fran Tarkenton and extending the play for about a good 7-8 seconds. I thought that play there, and Russell Wilson had no idea, because when he first looked at Doug Baldwin, who drifted out into the flats, he was wide open. There wasn't an Arizona Cardinal defender in sight. So when he pumped and turned his back, he thought Doug was open, and he blindly threw that football over there, not knowing that a Cardinal defender drifted over there to Doug Baldwin. So Baldwin, in effect, had to go and get that football and bail him out. It was a poor job of tracking the football by Antoine Bethea, who then fell on the play to make matters worse. And I thought that was the biggest play of the game, to be honest with you, because at that time, it's a 5-point game, 1-score possession. Cardinals are still in this game. Seattle has done nothing to that point in the second half offensively. If you're Arizona, you're thinking all we need is one big play, whether it comes defensively, special teams-wise, offensively, doesn't matter. One big play and we can take the lead in this game, and Seattle needed to at least get a field goal to put them up by a full possession plus a 2-point conversion. So that play to Baldwin, to me, was the biggest play in the game, because it got them in chip shot field goal range. So even if they weren't able to come away with 7, which they ultimately did with the back shoulder fade, really just the jump ball to Jimmy Graham, where he just took the football away from Antoine Bethea like a little kid. That play set up the 2-score lead for Seattle. And with the way the offense was playing and the way Arizona's offense looked in this game, 2 scores at that juncture of the game was damn near insurmountable. So I thought that was the biggest play of the game, and that was huge. And that's just Russell Wilson being Russell Wilson, creating something out of nothing. And Doug Baldwin, who I think is one of the most underrated wide receivers. It's funny, in the NBA, you hear the same statement all the time. Mike Conley's the most underrated player. Mike Conley's the most underrated point guard in the entire NBA. I feel the same way about Doug Baldwin. He doesn't get enough respect. We always say he's the most underrated wide receiver in the National Football League. How about we just not say that and just say the guy's really good? How about we do that? How about when we start mentioning some of the better receivers in the league, we mention Doug Baldwin, because this guy makes plays every single week. And every year, for that matter, you look up in the receiving stats, and Doug Baldwin is usually in the top 10, top 7, sometimes even top 5 in yards, catches, and touchdowns. So I think it's time we stop talking about how underrated he is and just talk about how good Doug Baldwin is. And I thought his play offensively was the biggest play of the game for the Seattle Seahawks, as they got it done offensively in this game. It wasn't pretty by any stretch of the imagination. And for the most part, outside of a couple of games for Seattle, Indianapolis, and Houston come to mind, it hasn't been pretty offensively for Seattle this season. But when they had to have plays, they made the plays that allowed them to take an overwhelming lead, at least 22-10, seemed like it in this game with the way Arizona was performing offensively. And that was really the difference in the game there, them making some plays. And when they got opportunities, putting the football in the end zone and making it count. You go to the defensive side of the football, and that's the story for the Seattle Seahawks, as they were outstanding defensively, because I tried to tell my man B.E. that the reason the Arizona Cardinals aren't going to be able to survive without Carson Palmer. We make a lot of Carson Palmer. We talk bad about him, how he's not clutch, how he hasn't won in the playoffs, and he's been horrible, and we think he's at the end of his career. And all of these things are true, but at least Carson Palmer, when guys are open and he has a clean pocket, he doesn't miss. He's got the best QB mechanics we've probably ever seen in NFL history, does Carson Palmer. So when you give him time in the pocket to step up and rifle the football, and a guy's 50 yards down the field, he rarely misses those opportunities. And so now with Drew Stanton, no one respects your passing game. So what teams are going to do? load up the box and dare you to throw it, and they're going to take away your run game. You're not playing the 49ers anymore. You're done with the 49ers. You've swept the 49ers. You don't get to run for 140 yards against the 49ers anymore. Everyone else in the league is smart enough to know, going to take away the run game. Seattle did that. 21 carries for Adrian Peterson in this game. 29 yards, literally a yard per carry. With that many carries means Seattle was stifling. And in there somewhere is like an 8 or 9 yard carry. So if you take that one carry away, you're literally talking about 1 for 1 for Adrian Peterson in this game. They were outstanding against the run, which I thought was priority number 1 defensively. Forget about Drew Stanton and putting pressure on him. All right. Stop the run. Make them one-dimensional, which is what I've been echoing all week long. If you're playing Arizona for the remainder of the season, your first primary goal should be stop the run, nothing else. If Drew Stanton wants to get nasty and freaky and throw for 330, so be it. And shame on you for allowing Drew Stanton to blaze you for 330. But nonetheless, if he does that, you tip your cap and you say, you got me. But I will be damned if I'm a defense and I go against Arizona and I let Adrian Peterson in that run game dictate what happens offensively for Arizona. Seattle quickly took him out of the game early and often, and that allowed them to apply a little bit of pressure on Drew Stanton. Now, I don't even know if they ever sacked him in this game, but it was a constant slew of pressure where they hit him often, after he delivered the football, hit him. And he got up hobbling a couple of times. They took a couple of penalties for hitting him, but it was worth it because I thought it rattled his confidence in the pocket. He missed some throws. We'll talk about that when we get to Arizona. But defensively, I thought the front did a really good job of just getting to Stanton. Not necessarily sacking him, but just getting him off the spot, making him a little uncomfortable, collapsing the pocket, making things seem a lot tighter and smaller around him, and seeing if he could throw in a condensed pocket. And he missed some throws in this game. And some of the credit needs to be given to the defensive line. Some of the credit needs to be given to the linebackers. KJ Wright with a nice tip away of a football over the middle of the field that would have been caught by Larry Fitzgerald on a key second or third down in the fourth quarter. The secondary was outstanding in this game, whether it was Bradley McDougald or it was Cam Chancellor before his injury or Dick Sherman before his injury. I think Shaquille Griffin is a star in the making. I've been so impressed, and I was flat out wrong about him. Well, that's not necessarily wrong. I just wasn't as high because remember when they spent that pick, and I think they either spent a second round pick, if not a second, definitely an early third on Shaquille Griffin. And a lot of people looked around like he's fast, he's got a little bit of length, but I don't think he's that good yet for you to spend that type of pick on him out of Central Florida. No, he looks the part, man. Seattle did their homework. They did their scouting, and he looks the part of a good NFL quality. And they've always done a good job. One thing I can say about Seattle, they've always done a good job of surrounding their number 1 shutdown corner in Dick Sherman with a guy opposite of him that can get the job done. They're not going to allow you, unlike Arizona for years who have struggled with that second cornerback position where teams have success going away from Pat P. Seattle's done a great job, whether it was back in the day with the big, tall Brandon Browner, or it was Byron Maxwell, or even Jeremy Lane for a little while held it down. And now I think Shaquille Griffin looks the part of a big-time corner in this league, and I thought he was outstanding in this game as well. He did suffer an injury, but did come back in the game, fortunate enough for Seattle because they couldn't afford another injury in that secondary, so it was good to see him come back. But I thought the secondary was outstanding in this game as well. So even though they gave some stuff up and there were more plays to be made by Arizona in this game, drop passes, missed throws, etc., I still thought Seattle did their fair share to disrupt some things down the field, and credit must be given to this Seattle Seahawks defense for holding Arizona to really 10 points. That 6 points that came at the end of the game was in garbage time when they basically wanted to keep everything in front of them and make Arizona run the clock, which they in effect did on that final possession. So I thought it was a really good performance defensively by Seattle, and a nice bounce back win after the gut-wrenching loss at home to the Redskins a week prior. Short turnaround. I thought it was a nice bounce back game on the road in the division against a tough opponent to go get the win. this was impressive and it was necessary. You couldn't afford to fall another game behind Los Angeles. If you're looking to win this division, which I fully expect you to do, you needed to win this football game. And I think it's going to come down to who's got the better divisional record. And if you continue to take care of business, which I don't see you losing in the division this year. I really don't. I see you going 6-0. You've already taken care of business in the two toughest venues you're going to have to go to in the division, in Los Angeles and Arizona. Now you got to go to San Francisco. That hasn't been easy for you over the years. They've always played you tough because you know it's family business, but I expect you to go there and find a way to win. And then you've got home games against both Arizona and the Rams. I expect you to take care of business at home and finish up this season 6-0 in the division and find a way to win this division. So this is a big one. You had to have this one. You went and got it. And now you're 6-4, and that bye week's got to be coming at some point. I know you got a Monday Night Football showdown versus Atlanta. I assume after that game, there's a bye coming, much needed. That'll allow you to heal up, and I think you'll be really poised and ready to go for the stretch run of the season after that. You get to the Arizona Cardinals in this game, and it's unfortunate. Let's start with the defense because it's unfortunate that, and I've said this, I feel like I'm a broken record when I say this because I've said this for at least 5 to 7 teams this year. It's a shame because this defense deserves better. This is a playoff caliber defense in Arizona. I look at their defense. I look at what they bring to the table defensively. They can get after your quarterback. Chandler Jones has double-digit sacks on the season. I like what I saw, even though he hasn't done much this season. I like what I saw out of Hassan Reddick tonight. They get interior pressure. That guy, Pierre Lewis, or whatever his name is, he looked good tonight. I was very impressed with him. I saw, or St. Pierre, whatever his name is, he looked good. I saw guys running around. Carlos Dansby is an ageless wonder out there making plays still at the ripe age of like 35, 36. I mean, the guy still looks like a spring chicken. Looks like his first 2-3 terms with Arizona. He's still playing at a very high level. Of course, Pat P out there. The Honey Badger running around. It sucks that you lose Tyvon Branch. Don't know the severity nor the extent of that injury. You're hoping that it's something that he'll be able to bounce back from and come back at some point in this season, but he did not return to this game. But nonetheless, I think that this is a defense that's good enough to get to the postseason, to be a competitive football team. But this offense, unfortunately, is going to hold this team back. And it's the reason why I could easily see Bruce Arians at the end of the season saying, I'm done. Larry Fitzgerald doing the same. And Carson Palmer also saying, hey, I'm going to go ahead and exit stage left with the rest of these dudes. So you just don't know what the future holds for Arizona. But defensively, I can tell you this much. No matter what happens offensively, they're going to be good for a while defensively. The question then becomes, how fast and how long will it take this offense to catch up to what the defense is doing? Because Seattle didn't do much offensively in this game. I thought they did a really good job of doing what everybody else has done in Seattle's run game, and that's stifle it and shut it down for the most part. They got after Russell Wilson. They chased him down. They did a great job of having sort of a mush rush, staying in their rush lanes and not really over pursuing, going up the field and opening up huge gaps and getting out of their lanes. Really good sound gap integrity when they were rushing the quarterback, especially early in the game. There was nowhere for him to go. He tried to step up in the A and B gaps, nowhere to go. They collapse on him and end up getting sacked. So I thought they did a really good job up front of knowing that Russell Wilson wants to escape, wants to extend. We're not allowing him to do that. Even when he tried to get to the perimeter, that team speed was good on the outsides, which allowed them to get to him and not extend plays, except for the one play, the one back-breaking play in the fourth quarter to Doug Baldwin. Aside from that, there weren't many Russell Wilson Houdini-acts in this game, or extensions of the play outside of the pocket where he out-leverages the defensive end or outside linebacker and extends the play for an additional 2 or 3 seconds, allowing someone to uncover. For the most part, the Cardinals did a great job of bottling him up. And if he did try to roll out to the sidelines, getting to him when he did try to scramble, they got to him in a hurry, made him slide and give himself up. So defensively, I thought they did some good things. Aside from the P-Rich deep ball, they didn't give up a lot. Now, I thought Russell Wilson, and I do want to say this about Seattle as I double back quickly. You kept Arizona in this game with penalties. I did not agree with some of those penalties the officials called, especially on that first possession that aided and abetted the Cardinals in their first touchdown of the game. I thought some of those penalties were garbage, and it really aided the Cardinals on that drive. They would not have scored that first touchdown, and I challenge you on that one of their field goals, they wouldn't have scored there either without the aid of the Seattle Seahawks. And there was a hands to the face penalty on the third down against Justin Coleman. I didn't see the first hands to the face. I didn't see the second one. So I thought the officiating was a little bit sketchy, but it didn't really affect the outcome of the game. I thought the players on the field affected the game more so than the officials, but still, nonetheless, Russell Wilson missed Tyler Lockett. Should have been a touchdown. And if he leads him towards the back of the end zone, puts more air on that football, that's a touchdown because Tyvon Branch was beaten on that play, and he severely underthrew it, allowed Branch to get back in the play. You could have called PI there. When they slowed it down, it was definitely PI, but when it happened live, I said, don't throw the flag. Do not throw the flag. It was bang, bang, but when you slow it down, he got there early, but it doesn't make a difference. Don't reward Russell Wilson for underthrowing a football that should have been thrown towards the back of the end zone. Lockett had him beat by a full 2, maybe even 3 steps, and the underthrown football allowed Tyvon Branch to get back into play. Let's get back to Arizona, however. Defensively, outside of that play and the P. Rich deep ball, I thought the secondary and the defense, for that matter, was outstanding for much of the night. There weren't many chunk plays. Obviously, the Doug Baldwin play, which that was off schedule. That was Russell Wilson creating. And really, you can't ask your defense to cover guys for 15 seconds. It's just impossible to do. And he was really unaccounted for in that play. He was supposed to be blocking, and he saw Russell Wilson in trouble, and he just said, hey, I'll just go out here and hang out if you need me. I'm here. And Russell saw him at the last minute and threw it up. So I'm not even going to kill the defense for that one. I thought this was a really good defensive performance, good enough for them to have a chance to win, and they just didn't get enough from the offense. Speaking of which, you go to the offense in this game, and it's what I expect from Arizona really for the majority of the remainder of the season. There are going to be some games where Adrian Peterson gets off and they run effectively, and it gives them a chance offensively to move the football, score some points, and win games. But those are going to be few and far between for the remainder of the season because the blueprint has been set. If you're playing the Arizona Cardinals, the only way they should be able to be effective offensively is if you allow them to run the football. If you take Adrian Peterson away and you force them to throw it, they're going to make mistakes. Now, I won't count on them dropping the football as much as they did tonight. I thought that you got to help Drew Stanton out. Look, he's already not good enough to get it done by himself. He's just not. Drew Stanton proved tonight, and you see this with backup quarterbacks, not just Drew Stanton, but backup quarterbacks around the league. They proved this time and time again why they are backup. Drew Stanton missed some easy throws tonight. There was a corner route to J.J. Nelson, wide open. He missed him. There was a throw over the middle to Troy Nicholas on a key third down. He missed him. There were opportunities down the field. J.J. Nelson or Sheriff John Brown down the sideline, beating, I want to say it was Shaquille Griffin by at least 2 steps. Overshot him by 3-4 yards. Wide open, that's a touchdown. You got to hit that one. In this league, you don't get those types of opportunities very often. When they come, you can't miss. And he missed tonight. But then, when he was accurate, guys dropped the football. John Brown with at least 2 drops. I think J.J. Nelson might have had a drop. I know Jermaine Gresham had one late in the ball game that would have been a touchdown. That would have kept another 30, 40 seconds on the clock and gave them more time for the onside kick and things of that nature. Everybody got involved. The Andre Ellie fumble, no, it was a fumble. That wasn't no damn drop. He caught that football and fumbled. But honestly, that worked out in the favor of the Seahawks because not only did they put more time back on the clock, that fumble that they recovered, Cam Chancellor returned it back to the 30-yard line. They went for it on 4th down. You got about 5 additional seconds left back on the clock from when it was ruled a fumble initially. And you got the football at the 38-yard line. So it worked out. I thought the football gods righted the wrong there by giving you better field position and more time to work with to go get that field goal before the end of the half. So it all worked out for you at the end of the day. But another blunder on the part of the Arizona Cardinals offensively in this game. And again, when your run game is non-existent, ineffective, and your quarterback is missing throws, you got to help him out. Drew Stanton is not capable of winning a football game by himself. Drew Stanton threw the football 47 times in this game. That's not winning football for the Arizona Cardinals with Drew Stanton at the quarterback position. So, and of those 47 throws, And I think he had about 23 completions, something along those lines. 6 of those were probably dropped. 6 of those incompletions probably drops on the part of the Arizona Cardinals. So they did not help their quarterback out. John Brown down the sidelines. I need that one. Was it the easiest catch? No. I need it, though. That's Drew Stanton back there. He needs it. Your team needs that. You can't drop that football. Gotta have it. So I didn't think the Arizona Cardinals did enough offensively to affect the game. They made too many mistakes. They weren't able to run the football. And your end result is a 22-16 loss at the hands of the Seattle Seahawks, effectively dropping the Cardinals to 4-5 now on the season. And more importantly, they're now 2-2 in the division. And they weren't going to win the division anyway, but it's still a gut punch because now you could have been 3-1 after this one had you found a way to get it done. And you had opportunities in this game. It was 10-15. It was 15-10 for the longest. You had opportunities, and you just didn't take advantage. And if you could have somehow gotten this win, gotten a 5-4 in the season, 3-1 in the division, now we're looking at you and saying, hey, you trying to win this division? You still got a home game versus the Rams? You trying to get some? Nah, you're not trying to get some. And like I said, I preferred the Seahawks win this game just because they have a chance to do more this season than you do. If you would have won this game, you would have been wasting an opportunity for somebody to do something big. Because you're not going to be able to do much offensively moving forward with no Carson Palmer and teams loading up the box and daring Drew Stanton to beat them. I just don't see this team being as effective offensively as they potentially could be had they had Carson Palmer still at the quarterback position. So it is what it is. And to take it a step further, special teams still haunting you, a blocked extra point in this game. These are things that you just can't afford to have. I mean, what if you would have got the onside kick and you score a touchdown to tie the game up? Now you need an extra point just to win instead of the touchdown would have been enough to win the game. I mean, it's just little subtle nuances like that where you're just like, come on, don't get – the guy came off that guy shouldn't block a kick off the edge unless he's offsides. They let that guy go all the time. He shouldn't block the kick. Anyway, Seahawks with a big win, 22-16. They get to 6-4 in the season. But let's talk about these injuries quickly, man, because they won this game, but it came at a cost. So there's no confirmation on Dick Sherman's injury, but we can all read lips. And I thought they did a tremendous job of camera work and of really getting in on what he was saying and then translating and relaying it to the rest of us, for those of us who can't read lips. But he clearly said, tore my Achilles. And then he doubled down on that by telling Russell Wilson, I'm done for the season. And he said, oh, man, I'm sorry to hear that. He said, hey, don't do that, man. He said, it happens, man. It's part of the game. And so I love Dick Sherman. And you know what's going to be said after this game. And it's right, because he came into the game with a sore Achilles, probably shouldn't have played. And had this game been on Sunday, maybe he doesn't tear his Achilles. It's very possible that this happened because he had not enough time to recover. It was a short week, and he was like, I'm going out there and I'm playing for my fellas. I'm playing for the boys. I'm not going to sit on the sideline when I know I can go out and help. And had it been a Sunday game, he probably doesn't tear it. Who's to say? I don't know. I mean, I can't sit here and confirm nor deny that. But the short turnaround definitely didn't help. I can assure you of that. But nonetheless, that's a devastating blow for a guy that has never missed a start in his career. And then, of course, you came into the game without Earl Thomas. Then Cam Chancellor leaves, and I think he might have suffered a concussion. If you remember that hit at the end, right before the 2-minute warning, where Andre Ellie leaves the game because he got lit up. Well, Cam Chancellor got up slow on that play as well. And he stayed in the next snap right before the 2-minute warning. And then when they came back from the 2-minute warning, you saw him going into the blue tent. And I said to myself, I bet you got a concussion. And sure enough, it was crazy. When they came back from their little 30-second timeout, they showed him sitting down on the bench. I said, he's got a concussion. And he didn't return in the game. And at least he's got 10 days, 11, because it's a Monday night game to recover. And he may be able to play in your next game on Monday night versus Atlanta. But that could be a devastating blow as well. In any event, they showed the numbers when one or more of the Legion of Boom is out. And you could have 2 out next week. It's very possible. I expect Earl to be back next week. But then again, you just never know. You could be without all three of those dudes next week. I think at least Earl will be back, possibly both Earl and Cam back in the lineup. But that's a big blow to lose Dick Sherman for the remainder of the season to a torn Achilles, because at one point you knew, okay, we're going to take away one side of the field. Teams aren't really going to challenge us over there. And that was going to funnel everything to the other side of the field. So if you're a safety, if you're Cam Chancellor, if you're Earl Thomas, you knew, okay, I can kind of spy over to the other side of the field because that's where they really want to go. They want to stay away from Dick Sherman. So I got a chance to make some plays, but it's really frustrating to see a guy like that. I love Dick Sherman. I love his game. I love his bravado and his brashness. And I hate to see an ambassador of the game go down. And it's just unfortunate to see him go down like that on a Thursday night when he probably shouldn't have been playing. And then you see some other guys go down in this game. Sheldon Richardson went down probably with a concussion of his own because he crashed into the thigh of Frank Clark, who was able to get up on his own power. But he might have a thigh contusion when it's all said and done. So that could end up being something there. We'll see what happens once the swelling takes place because he got hit pretty hard with the helmet of Sheldon Richardson, so he left the game. Obviously, Dwayne Brown is a big injury there with the ankle. We don't know the severity of it. Did he break it? Did he? You're hoping it's not a high ankle sprain. Those are the worst. They take much longer to heal. So, I mean, you're just hoping it's a mild grade 2 sprain of the ankle, and that's something that he'll be able to play with on Monday night. If it's anything worse, if it's a grade 3, if it's a high ankle sprain, he's gonna probably be out for 2 to 4 weeks. So they came out of this game wounded. Jaron Reed out in this game. So a lot of injuries for Seattle leaving this ball game. But luckily enough for you, it was a Thursday game, so you get 10 days off. Add the extra day for Monday night. In effect, 11 days between your next game. Going to give some guys an opportunity to get the treatment that they need to potentially be back for you next week. But again, some big-time injuries with some possibilities of long-term ramifications in this game. None bigger than the Dick Sherman injury at the cornerback position. Let's get to your comments as the Seahawks get the job done in this game, 22-16. Let's see what we got. So we get all the way to the top. Vincent Cole says, "Sigh, so many people got hurt." Yeah, Vince. I mean, it reminds me of my boys this year. You probably watched that Monday night game versus Kansas City and how it was a mass unit that night and how everybody got hurt. And it continued to just snowball the following weeks after that. Redskins just couldn't get right. And it sucks when you watch your team on a primetime game, just one guy after another dropping like flies. It's frustrating. But it's the nature of the beast. You saw Dick Sherman say it himself. You know, it's a part of the game. You know what I mean? It happens. And so you just got to hope that a lot of these injuries aren't serious injuries that are going to keep these guys out. You know, obviously Dick Sherman's done for the season. I mean, he's not going to lie and tell people he's got a torn Achilles. He knows what's up. He went and told everybody, including his defensive coordinator, "I'm done for the year, man. Hold it down." So everybody knows he's done for the year. You're hoping none of the other injuries are that severe. And I don't think any of them are, but you just never know. You won't know until, you know, tomorrow or whenever Pete Carroll takes the podium after the game to kind of recap everybody on, you know, the status of all the injuries and the severity of them. They may have to do some MRIs to see what guys have going on with certain injuries, but we'll see what happens. Netzeltoy01 says, "Help! As a Seahawks fan, I don't know how to feel about this game. Injuries and all. It is, man, a rough situation. You'll take the win. So I'll tell you how to feel having went through this already this season a number of times. You'll take the win gladly, but there's an element of concern knowing that the future could be up in the balance with all of these injuries. So you take the win. You're excited about that because it was a big win on the road in the division. Those are always huge. But there's an element of uncertainty looming over your squad because you still are holding out hope that some of these other guys just have mild injuries that they'll be able to come back from and be able to perform for the stretch run. And I'm telling you, your bye week, when it comes, couldn't have come at a better time, because even if these guys don't perform and aren't able to go on Monday night, if the bye week is right after that, you're going to get guys back after that bye week. So just feel good. Take solace in knowing you got the win, and just hope that a lot of these injuries aren't severe ones. BE says defense was playing great. They did. And like I said, I've said this with a number of teams. Baltimore is one of the teams I say it with routinely. I've said it with a number of teams this year where you say, man, you know, defensively, this team is good enough, but unfortunately enough for them, their offense is not. And it's going to be the same case with the Arizona Cardinals this year. This defense is good enough, but unfortunately, the offense is not. And I think that's what's going to be the downfall of your team. Vincent Cole says, Seahawks 6-3. I think they already had their bye week. No, you're right. You're right. They were 5-3 going into this game. So let me change that on the video, because I think I put 6-4. And yeah, you're right. They were 5-3 because they were a game back of that. They were tied initially with St. Louis or Los Angeles with the Rams prior to week 9, and then they lost to the Redskins, and that dropped them to 5-3 and allowed the Rams to take the lead by a game at 6-2 with their win over the Giants. So thank you for that correction, Vincent Coe. I appreciate that greatly. Vincent Coe says, who's the better corner? Who's the better trash talker, Sherman or Ramsey? At this point of his career, Sherman is no longer the same athlete that he was when he first came into the league. He now relies more on savvy and just length at this point of his career. He can still run, but not nearly as much as he could early in his career. Ramsey is the better corner right now, but if you're talking about just savvy route combinations, knowing what guys are doing because he's seen it all, done it all, that's still Dick Sherman there. But if you're just talking about pure athleticism, being able to react to what he sees, and even if he gets beat, catching back up to the play and getting back in there and making a play, I go with Ramsey. But better trash talker, it's Ramsey, because Sherman, I think it's a misconception. I don't think Dick Sherman talks a lot of trash. I think he only talks trash if you say something to him. But I think he's one. I think there's a misconception out there about these good corners like Josh Norman and Dick Sherman. I don't think those guys say a lot during the game. I think because they get into a couple of scraps with certain receivers, Norman with Odell and Sherman with Crabtree, you think that these guys are grade A top choice trash talkers, and they're really not. Sherman doesn't talk a lot of trash. He's pretty respectful, as Josh Norman is, pretty respectful guy. You know, it's these other players, Des Bryant and Odell, that like to talk trash to Norman. And in the case of Sherman, you never see him get into it with Larry Fitzgerald. You never see him get into it with anybody else. He doesn't really talk a lot. So Ramsey would be the better of the two in the trash talking department as well. Kevin says, can I get an 8 wins for the first 4 weeks in winners and losers because I didn't turn in picks? I want to contend this year. I probably won't be able to do that. I might be able to slide in a couple of little fill-ins for you to give you a chance to just get back in and be respectable. But I don't think I'm gonna be able to do that for you, partner. But we'll see. We'll figure out something. Mind Draw says, do you think this division will send 2 teams to the playoffs with the way that the other NFC divisions are shaping up? I think that they're going to be – no one's getting 3 teams in. I've heard NFC South fans say, hey, this division getting 3 teams in. No division is getting 3. I think the way it's going to shape up, 2 divisions are going to get 2, and then 2 divisions are going to get 1. So the division that I think is going to end up getting 1 is going to be obviously the NFC North. Well, I can't say obviously, because I still think Detroit can win that division. You look at Detroit's schedule, boy, is that thing cupcake soft or what? They've gotten through the tough, meaty part of their schedule. Man, you look at the back end of their schedule, and it's a lot of soft toss, slow pitch softballs coming their way. Cincinnati and those types of teams, they're going to have a field day at the back end of their schedule. Cleveland, Cincinnati, those types of games are coming up for Detroit. And so, no doubt in my mind, they're going to clean up in the back end of their schedule. I think they got another one with Chicago. If they have, I don't even know if they've played Chicago yet already. They might have 2 against Chicago, which isn't easy, but you should win those games. I think you got Green Bay once more at home, probably without Rodgers. I don't know if that's week 17 or not. He may be back by then. But if they stink, which it looks like they're going to stink, what is he coming back for? He won't come back. So, in any event, I still think Detroit can win that division. One out of that division would assume that Minnesota fell off or Detroit fell off. In any event, I think the NFC East can get 2 teams. I think the NFC South can get 2 teams. It's going to be interesting how it plays out because I told you I think somebody with 10 wins could easily miss out on the postseason. And this division already has 2 teams with 6 wins. So they're halfway home. But anything can happen, you know, down the stretch. And like I said, a lot of these NFC teams are going to be playing each other. So over the next 3 or 4 weeks, we're going to find out. Seattle plays Dallas. Dallas plays Philly twice. Philadelphia plays the Rams. You know, all these teams are intermingled with each other. Minnesota plays the Redskins. Dallas and Atlanta are playing this week. That could be an elimination game of sorts, especially if Atlanta doesn't get it done. So we're going to start to see teams separate themselves from the pack and who's going to compete. But it's really interesting in the NFC right now. But this division could easily be one of the... I think 2 divisions are getting 2. I don't know which 2 are going to be. I feel like the NFC East, the NFC West, and the NFC South right now are the divisions that have the best opportunity to get 2 teams in because in all of those divisions, with the exception of the West, you've got 3 teams vying for 2 spots. So the odds are better in the NFC South and NFC East with the Redskins, Cowboys, and Eagles, and in the South with the Panthers, Falcons, and of course the Saints. So you're looking at 3 for 2 in those divisions, whereas with the NFC West, there's just 2 teams there. It's a 2-team race there. So Arizona's going to fall off the wagon, and it's just going to be Seattle and the Rams. But both of them already got 6 wins, so hard to really say. And then I don't want to discount Detroit and Minnesota out in the North. So it's man, the NFC is so interesting. Brandon Sullivan says, damn straight, JD needs it more. Love what I saw from him last year in Atlanta. Just looked like he understood the game, man. He needs more touches, bro. I just don't understand. They got to get him the football more. He's so explosive and dynamic, and he's got such a unique skill set. Being an ex-receiver, he's got outstanding hands. Why you don't and I don't understand why Carolina, and I've been, you know, really killing the Panthers, because they don't use McCaffrey the way that they should. They use McCaffrey more as a back and throw him screens and things of that nature, you know, quick hitters out of the backfield. I'm like, man, if you don't split that man out, start him out in the backfield, motion him out, get him one-on-one and isolate him with a backer or a safety and abuse these dudes. That guy's virtually a receiver. So is J.D. McKissick. Just needs more touches, man. Mondraw says, what's your opinion on the Theo Riddicks, J.D. McKissicks, and Christian McCaffreys of the world not getting enough touches? Is it that hard to find a place for them in the offense? It's not. And thank you, Mondraws. It's not. All those players are similar in their body type, similar in the way they play the game, similar in their ability out in space to be dynamic, and similar with hands, with great, outstanding hands to catch the football. All of them have the ability to be receivers. 2 of them used to be receivers, and Riddick and McKissick. So both of them were college receivers at one point. Great hands. I don't understand why it's so hard to get these guys the football out in space. I just don't. Whether it's in the screen game out of the backfield, which Carolina has mastered the art of throwing Christian McCaffrey 6 screens a game. But I'm talking about utilizing these guys in ways. If you're going to throw them the football out of the backfield, how about running an option route or an arrow route where he sticks his foot in the ground? Theo Riddick is the master of the arrow route out of the backfield. Win. Get him the football. Isolate him. Be looking for that. Spread a team out. One-on-one coverage with the backer. Let him stick his foot in the ground. Give him a shimmy. Stem of the route. Break him off. Go inside. Win. That's 30 yards easy if everybody else is in man-to-man coverage. That linebacker's not catching him from behind. Safety's going to have to get him. Split him out. Start him out in the backfield. Motion him out. Oh my gosh, I got a linebacker. Oh my gosh, I got a safety. Easy money. It's stealing. Again, I think offensive coordinators overthink the game sometimes. They do too much. They're overthinking things. Simplify the game. It's not hard. Football has always been and always will be about getting your best players the football in positions to succeed. Putting your best players in the best possible situations to make plays. Putting the ball in the hands of guys that can make plays. That's what football's always been about. That's what it will continue to be about. That's what it always will be about. And the teams that know how to do that will continue to excel. The teams that struggle and find it hard to get the football into the hands of their best players are going to continue to struggle. I just don't understand. Ricky L says, bro, did I hear you say Dick Sherman? Yeah, that's what I call Richard Sherman. You know that's what they call Richard, right? That's what they call, that's the nickname, and don't ask me why, but that's the nickname for Richard. That was the nickname for Richard back in the day. Dick. Don't ask me why, but I find it funny. I call Richard Sherman Dick Sherman. Netzel's Toy 01 says, sometimes I think Pete and Bevel still think they can run the ball like Marshawn is still there. Why is it hard to own the passing team identity? Maybe it's just me. I still think that you're right. They're holding on to that fading and fleeting hope that they can somehow become that team again. Because at the end of the day, that's when Russell Wilson is at his best. He's at his best when they can run it 27, 30 times, and he drop backs and throws it 25 to 27 times. And then the play action game becomes that much more dynamic. Guys are much more open. Space is open over the middle of the field. Jimmy Graham is running wide open over the middle of the field. Things are a lot easier when you can run the football. Things were a lot easier, and you lessen the likelihood for mistakes. You saw Russell throw 2 picks last week against the Redskins. You lessen the likelihood of mistakes when you run the football, like the Seahawks used to do. And when you play defense the way that they play it, 2 things travel in this league. And when you go on the road in the playoffs, if you can run the football and play defense, you got a shot to beat anybody, anywhere, anytime. And when you don't run the football effectively and you got to rely on the passing game, you can throw yourself out of the game quickly, because if you're not completing passes, Pete and Darren Bevel aren't stupid. They know the offensive line still isn't what they want it to be. And so Russell sometimes gets pressured and puts them in some bad situations. They hold a lot. I mean, penalties, the last 2 games, penalties have been a big time factor for Seattle. They've got to stop committing so many penalties. It's hurting them. They're giving up points. They're hurting themselves offensively. They're killing drives. They're not good enough to overcome that right now. And so I think what they want to do is they want to be more of a balanced football team, but that's not what they are. It's not in their DNA right now. I don't know if they have the back for that right now. And to take it a step further, I don't know if this offensive line is built to do that. So they just need to embrace who they are. Like you said, they're a passing team, and they've got the weapons to throw the football all around the field. So they just need to embrace that. And it's okay to use the pass to set up the run. There's nothing wrong with spreading teams out in a 3 wide receiver set with 1 tight end and 1 back, and then handing the football off out of shotgun or running read option out of that. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with going into an empty back set and then sending one of your running backs in motion and then just flipping them the football. That's a completed pass. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with single back set with 1 tight end on the field and 3 receivers. Spread them out and then hand off the football with some stretch action. There's nothing wrong with that. And throwing the football all around the field and then coming back and running out of obvious passing formations. Nothing wrong with that. Pepe the YouTuber says, BE almost convinced me to choose the Cardinals. Glad I didn't. I wish you would have listened to him. Cloud says, I feel like Pat Peterson will ask to be traded in the offseason. Do you think he'll ask for a trade? I don't know. If he listens to Deion Sanders, yeah, he will. And this is the thing, and I thought about it long and hard because somebody asked me about this yesterday. Matter of fact, I want to say, I forgot my man's name, but he always asks great questions when he joins me on my streams. And he said, you think, I heard Deion saying that Pat Peterson needed to be traded and yada, yada, yada. He said, that's asinine. That's dumb. And it's not the most craziest idea I've ever heard of. And Pat Peterson idolizes Deion Sanders. That's like a mentor of sorts for him. They talk all the time. He wears 21 because of Deion Sanders. He models his game after Deion Sanders. He returns punts because of Deion Sanders. Patrick Peterson is, in effect, in Deion's eyes, the new Deion Sanders. So in saying that, Deion, if you remember Deion Sanders' career, he was trapped in a location where he wasn't going to win, and he knew that, in Atlanta. And it wasn't until Deion got out of Atlanta that he started winning football games and ultimately winning Super Bowls. And I think Deion sees the same thing for Patrick Peterson. Like, if you don't get out of Arizona, you're never going to win. And if you want to have a chance at winning a chip, you got to get out of Arizona. And I think that's where you're hearing Deion chirping in at. And if Pat P starts listening to Deion singing that song, and I'm telling you, he's going to look up and he's going to say, damn, Larry just retired, Carson just retired, and Bruce Arians just retired. What the hell are we going to do on offense? We don't have a quarterback. We no longer have a go-to receiver. And we about to have a new head coach. Do I really want to start this rebuild offensively? Do I want to stick around for that? Because by the time we get good offensively, by the time we get a quarterback and he actually gets good enough to lead us where we're trying to go, I'm no longer in the prime of my career. That's 3 years down the road. Do I really want to stick around for that? That's what you got to ask yourself. So I think it's a real pertinent question. And I think that's something he's going to give thought to in the offseason. But just because he demands a trade doesn't mean they trade him. But if a guy doesn't want to be there, why would you want him there? So it's all speculation. He hasn't said anything, and I don't know if he'll say anything either. Mandraw says, has AD always been this fumbly? I swear I've seen him fumble at least 3 times this year. Yeah, he's always had a fumbling problem. He's always been a guy that he runs so physically and tough, but every now and again, he'll put the football on the carpet. He's always been a guy that would fumble the football. So, yeah, he's had a fumbling problem throughout his career. Pepe, the YouTuber, says, I think the bigger news here is that Walsh made a field goal. His job is safe for another week. They weren't going to get rid of him unless he went out and missed another 2 field goals tonight. Then his job would have really been on the line. But they had confidence in him. He had been pretty good until last week. So it was good to see him redeem himself. I'm just glad he missed when he did miss. If he was going to pick a week to miss, he picked the right week to miss. FBG Tony says, Sherman's season-ending injury equals they are screwed. Hawks are in deep trouble, bro. I don't know. If they get the safeties back, both of them healthy, for the stretch run, they may be able to survive at the cornerback position. Shaquille Griffin, to me, is the key. And how lucky were the Seahawks that Jeremy Lane trade didn't go through in terms of him not passing his physical. Boy, they would be in some trouble if he didn't if he passed his physical and was in Houston right now, because they couldn't afford another injury at the cornerback position with no Lane. Please. They might be all right, though. Mandraw says, how is Walsh so accurate when he misses? It's always just a bit to the left all the time. Because he goes through the same regimen. Kickers are creatures of habit. And he goes through the same regimen, and when he misses, he probably pulls it the same exact way every single time. Ricky L says, biggest threat to my Eagles in the NFC. Seahawks was up there, but Sherman has ruptured his Achilles. The biggest threat to your Eagles right now, to me, is the Cowboys. And with Ezekiel Elliott missing 6 games now, I want to see what the Cowboys do and how they respond. But they were the only team that could possibly tame you. Now with him being out, I see the biggest threat to the Eagles being themselves, really. I mean, you look around at the NFC, and I mean, there's some teams out there that are good. And the Rams, that's going to be a fun game to watch because they've got a high-octane offense, and they can get after the quarterback with some really aggressive defenders. That'll be a fun game to watch later on in the season. But, you look around the league, and there's some teams that can match up well with the Eagles. But right now, for me, for my money, the Eagles are the class of the NFC. And right now, the only team that can stand in their way is themselves, to be honest with you. Cloud says Sherman is out for the season. I think the Rams will win the division. Sherman's injury doesn't change my mind one bit. It's still a tough team. They're still physical. They still got enough in that secondary to get by. And if Shaquille Griffin is as good as I think he is, which I think he is, if he stays healthy, I think they'll be okay. Stevie D says, we are now seeing how bad the loss of David Johnson was. The Cards are doomed the second he went down. I told you that week 1 when he went down versus Detroit. You're in trouble because and that's the problem with making one man such a huge part of your offense. Last year, when BE was going nuts, goo gaga over David Johnson's season and how he was catching all these passes, running for all these yards, and like he's gonna have 1,000 yards rushing and 1,000 yards receiving, and he's gonna set a record and blah 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 blah. I'm like, this is great, but what if something happens to him? This dude is like 60% of your offense. If anything happens to David Johnson, you are royally screwed because he's such a huge part of what you do, because you throw it to him so much, because he runs it so much, because everything you do offensively revolves around him. If anything would have happened to David Johnson, and at the time I didn't think anything would, but if anything happened to him, you're in trouble. And what happens? He breaks his hand, first game of the season, and from that point on, I knew you guys were going to be in trouble. Buffalo pregame says, I'm 8-1 in fantasy, first place, but I'm going to lose in the playoffs due to Elliott being suspended for the 87th time. This time, for real. Yeah, that one stings, for sure. Mine draws. You should have been preparing yourself, Buffalo pregame. You should have already been out there wheeling and dealing. You should have really, what you should have done was you should have pulled the wool over somebody's eyes and tried to trade Elliott 2 weeks ago. That's what you should have done because you knew this was coming. You knew this was coming. So you should have been proactive here and said, hey, Elliott ain't getting suspended. I'll trade you. Boom, boom, bam. Got you a guy that could have got you through. Mondraw says, the biggest is the blueprint set for the Rams to take away the division? How so? Fill me in, because I don't know what that blueprint is. Fill me in. Let's get to the next comment. See what we got here. Netzel's Toy 01 says, honestly, I don't feel like the Seahawks offense can step up with the injuries on defense, especially since our punt returning just isn't getting much done to help. Yeah, in past years, you've gotten something out of your special teams, whether it's Lockett or somebody else making a huge play on punts or kickoffs. Hasn't been the case this year, and I mean, it is what it is. I think that this team, offensively, you don't know which team's going to show up. The team that scored 41 versus Houston, or the team that struggled to score against the Redskins and only put up 14. You know, the team that struggled for the vast majority of this game versus Arizona and scored 22, or the team that went bonkers in the second half versus Indianapolis and put up 48. I mean, you just don't know which team's going to show up. And I think that game is the best example of what this Seahawks team is Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde. In the first half of that game versus Indianapolis, you didn't really do much of anything. You were trailing. If you remember, you were trailing at halftime of that game. And then you erupted for like 35 points in the second half. So that's the bottom line with this team is you just don't know what offensive football team you're going to get week in, week out. Vegeta's Dark Side says, I think Seattle will be fine on defense. Earl Thomas is the one that makes that defense go. We all saw what happened to that defense when he was out all last year. I agree. I think Earl Thomas, if you ask me the one guy you can't take away from that defense, I go 1A, 1B. You can't take Earl Thomas away for any lengthy amount of time. And I'd double down on the fact that, you know, while we all talk about the Legion of Boom, Bobby Wagner might be the best inside linebacker in the entire National Football League. It's ridiculous how good he is. And he's another guy that just doesn't get the credit that he deserves for how good he is. Ricky L says, you throwing me off by calling him Dick. I hated that nickname growing up. Sean Mack says, I took the 49ers as my upset special this week. Well, actually, technically, Sean Mack, that's not an upset. Vegas has the 49ers favored to beat the Giants. So, technically speaking, not actually an upset. Actually, the Giants winning that game with all their dysfunction and turmoil swirling around their football team. That actually is the upset this week. So, people actually expect the 49ers to get their first win this season, this week versus the Giants. Stevie D says, what do you think the chances are of Jordan Reed playing this weekend? I got him on my fantasy. Not very good, man. If I were you, I'd plan for, I'd have a backup plan, plan B in place, because I don't see Jordan Reed playing this week. So just keep that in mind. Vegeta's Dark Side says, Detroit not winning that division. For me, they actually have to win it for me to believe it. I mean, I feel you. You know, the Lions should have won it last year and they pissed it away. So I get it. I know where you're coming from. You're coming from a place of disbelief. You don't believe in what they're selling. You don't believe that they're good enough to find a way to win that division. Even when every team in the division is seemingly trying to give it to them, they still don't take it. I get it. You're not convinced that they're good enough to get it done, and you think that Minnesota's good enough to hold them off. I get it. But the Vikings, unless that quarterback situation gets resolved, you don't get to play Chicago, Cleveland, Baltimore. You don't get to play these teams anymore. That's done. That part of your schedule is finished. Okay? You don't get to play the little sisters of the poor anymore. The Vikings, believe it or not, have had a really soft schedule. Okay? This week against the Redskins will be their toughest game since they played the Pittsburgh Steelers in week 2. They haven't had a tough challenge since week 2 in the Pittsburgh Steelers. They played Aaron Rodgers without Aaron Rodgers. He got hurt on the second possession of the game. So basically no Aaron Rodgers. They beat them. And yeah, they lost to Detroit. But that was like 14-7. And they lost Dalvin Cook in that game. They could have easily have won that game. This Redskins game will be a measuring stick game for both teams, really. But for Minnesota, they haven't seen stiff competition this year, really. They haven't. It's the reason why they've gotten off to such a good start. You know, they've played good football, and they're good defensively. Don't get me wrong, but I think Detroit's got what Minnesota already has played. Detroit's getting that in the back half of the season. That's what I'm trying to explain to you, is that all the soft teams that Minnesota's been able to pounce on, Detroit's getting them in the back end of their schedule now. They're the ones that's going to get Baltimore, and they're the ones that are going to get Cleveland and Cincinnati and a banged up Green Bay. They're getting that. So we'll see. Kevin says, who's going to win this week, Packers or Bears? And how are the Cowboys going to do against the Falcons? I'm not giving no more advice out, Kevin. All right, don't try to sneak ask me who's going to win a game. Did you watch the show yesterday or not? If you didn't, then you need to go watch it. I'm not helping nobody else out no more, Kevin. Make your own picks, Kevin. I'm not on nobody's team no more. Y'all done got the competitive juices flowing now. I'm not helping nobody out. Sean Mack says, my Browns defense is 9th overall, 3rd against the run, 17th against the pass. It's our offense that sucks. Disease-infested donkey ball. We wouldn't be too bad if we could score. Hey, I can't with you, Sean Mack. I cannot, man. Vincent Cole says, who's better middle linebacker, Bobby Wagner or Navarro Bowman? I mean, Navarro Bowman back in the days when he's healthy. I'd still take Wagner, man. Like, Bobby Wagner. People don't understand. The only thing I can say about Navarro Bowman that might give him a slim advantage is he was better in coverage than I think Bobby Wagner is. But even Bobby Wagner is good in coverage on the low, though. Low-key, Bobby Wagner is tremendous in coverage as well. Overall, he didn't get enough credit. Man, Bobby Wagner is a G, man. Straight up. I take Wagner, man. I think I'll take Wagner straight up. Even though Bowman was a badass, let's admit, when they were at their highest powers in San Francisco, who was better, Patrick Willis or Navarro Bowman? Come on, man. You were taking P. Willis all day long and twice on Sundays. So give me Bobby Wagner, man. And that's not a knock on Navarro Bowman. When he was at the height of his powers, he was an outstanding football player. One of the best in the league. But Bobby Wagner, I just don't think he gets the credit he deserves. Sean Mack says Panthers should be using McCaffrey and Samuel at the same time. Samuel is the better running back, though, in my opinion. I don't know if that's a fact or not. McCaffrey looked good at the running back position this past week against the Falcons. Samuel, he's just one of those Percival Harvin guys. Like, what do you do with him? He's not a real receiver. He's not really a running back, but he can help you. Just figure out ways to get, like Percival Harvin, just figure out ways to get him touches. They still haven't figured that out in Carolina. They're trying, but they're not doing a good enough job, in my opinion. Vincent Cole says, can you tell me about Mike Millen? I see on this football site they always use Millen as a failing grade to grade terrible trades. Oh, not Mike Millen. You're talking about Matt Millen. Matt Millen was the GM of the Detroit Lions. Hell of a football player. Won like 4 Super Bowls throughout his career with the Raiders, 49ers, and the Redskins, but made a terrible GM in Detroit. Horrible draft picks that never panned out. They just weren't able to get on track with him as a general manager, and he's looked upon as one of the worst GMs in NFL history. That may be exaggerating. There's been some really bad GMs, so I'm not going to kill him, but you ask any Lions fan, and they'll tell you Matt Millen was horrendous. So that's what you're talking about. Not Mike. I don't think it's Mike. I think you're talking about Matt Millen, if I had to guess. Ricky says, I hated that nickname. Why did I have to be named Richard? Yeah, man. Some of those nicknames just kill me. I used to get a trip. I didn't figure that out because, again, if you're a younger person like myself, then, you didn't grow up in the 50s or the 60s, so you didn't know that, the nickname for Robert is Bob, which is why O.C. Umenyiora used to call Robert Griffin Bob Griffin. But the nickname for Robert was Bob. The nickname for Richard was Dick, which, again, I don't understand. There's a nickname for Bill, too. Like, if your name is William, then they call you Bill. Again, why? My name is William. Where you get Bill from? My name is Robert. Where the hell did Bob come in? And my name is Richard. Why are you calling me Dick? I don't know. That's some old-ass 1950 shit that I don't know, nor will I ever understand, but it's funny to me. So I get a chuckle out of that. And I feel bad for you, Richard. No, Ricky, man. Yeah, that sucks. It is what it is, though, man. As you get older, that probably happens to you less and less. But nonetheless, that had to suck. I know it did. Sean Mack says, I could talk trash. I just let my picks do the talking for me. I ain't saying nothing else, man. I ain't talking no more. I'm done talking. Mondraw says, this upcoming draft may be the first time the Seahawks use a first rounder on an offensive tackle. I mean, but will they be in a position to? If they make the playoffs, they're going to, same old Seahawks, make the playoffs, have the 24th to 27th pick in the draft. What grade A top choice offensive tackle you going to get at 27, at 24, at 25? Most of those dudes go off the board in the top 15 picks. So, I don't know. I mean, every time they try to take a lineman at that part of the draft, they end up converting him to some other position, i.e. Justin Britt. And I think Britt might have been a second-round pick out of Mizzou. But obviously, the kid they took out of Texas A&M thought he was going to they were going to have a tackle there. He ends up being a guard. So, I mean, it is what it is. Nestle Toy says, oh, wait, we skipped a whole bunch of comments. Hold on a second. Here we go. Sean Mack says, Seattle could really use Mike McGlinchey from your Fighting Irish. He might be around by then, but then again, these dominant offensive linemen. It used to be a time where teams were hesitant to take an offensive guard early, but after Zach Martin with the Cowboys, times have changed, man. A dominant, and with Brandon Sheriff with the Redskins, a dominant offensive lineman is a dominant offensive lineman. Whether the Cowboys showed you that. That's why their line is so good. When everybody, including myself, killed them for taking Travis Frederick in the first round. You can't take a center. Why the hell I can't? Okay, you can't take Zach Martin in the first round. He's a guard. Why the hell? Okay, fine. I'm about to build this juggernaut of an offensive line and see what you say after that. So he may not be there either. It's tough to say. Cloud says, speaking of the Cowboys, Lou, I'm not sold on Dak fully. Without Zeke, I don't know if he can beat you, especially in the Denver game when they shut down Zeke. What do you think? I think he's grown since that game. I think he's a really good quarterback, and this is my thing. They're still going to run the football without Zeke. Will it be as dynamic? No, absolutely not. Not even close. But they're still going to have a semblance of a run game. But yes, I think this is going to be a great opportunity to see what Dak really has when there's no Zeke, and now really the onus falls on you to try to will your team to victories. I still think they're going to run the football, though, with Alfred Morris and still be effective behind that offensive line, believe it or not. So we'll see. But I agree with you in the sense that we're going to find out. I don't agree with you that Dak can't handle it. I think Dak's a really good quarterback in this league, and he's going to show you that over this 6-game period. But I think I do agree with you in the sense that we're going to find out a lot about Dak during this 6-game stretch without Zeke as to how he handles being the primary focus of opposing defenses, opposed to Zeke being that guy that teams come into the game saying, hey, we got to stop the Cowboys' run game. Stevie D says, I've never seen so much parity in the NFL. It's crazy. Anyone can win it. Get in and you got a shot. It's going to be whoever gets hot at the right time. That is by far and away the most 100% accurate fact I've heard probably this season from anybody. And I've said that basically multiple times, but that was well said. And that is exactly how I feel. And really, it's probably going to be who gets hot at the right time. Who's playing their best football come playoff time. I mean, the Eagles started off 8-1. Let's say they come off this bye and they finish up this season at, because what they have? They played 9 games, so they've got 7 left. Let's say they finish up the season at 4-3, but they lose their last 2 games of the season because they had already clinched the division, and they're not playing their best football. They're not the same team that they were maybe a month ago when they still had the division and the number 1 seed on the line. And they're not playing their best football, and they try to rev it back up, but they're not good enough. See, the Patriots can turn it off and then turn it back on because they've been there before. The Steelers can turn it off and turn it back on. They've been there before. The Eagles can't turn it off and turn it back on. Their quarterback has never been in a playoff game before. So it's that fine balance that you have to kind of figure out. And whoever's playing the best football, if somebody catches lightning in a bottle, wins their last 5 games of the season and goes into the playoffs red hot, that could be the team nobody wants to see. And is that kind of season lining up, I think. Sean Mack says, I've had Alfred Morris on my bench all year long for this suspension. Well, he's about to pay off huge dividends for you. Sean Mack said, what? Damn it. When the hell did that happen? The polls I was reading had the Giants as 63% favorites. It might have switched. The last time I looked at the odds, the 49ers were a 1-point favorite to win that game. So obviously a 1-point favorite when you're at home means it's really a pick-em game. But it could have switched. But with the turmoil in New York, it wouldn't shock me if the 49ers had even increased that to 2, 2.5, possibly 3 points. So we'll see what happens. Brandon Sullivan says, haha, I feel that the Bills-Jets game made it to where you don't want to help out anymore. Well, no, it's not that game because really nobody picked the Bills. There were only a couple people that picked the Jets. So, I mean, most people picked the Bills. Nobody really picked the Jets. But it's just the fact that I'm not performing at the level that I'm supposed to. And I'm not in a position to be helping nobody. I got to help myself. I'm not in a position to help anybody else out. I got to help me first. I'm looking around trying to give out sound advice and make sure everybody else straight. And I'm not even straight. So it's time for me to turn it up. BK Soldier 2010 says, BE just lost with his Cardinals. You keep creeping up on. I ain't creeping up on him yet. He knew he was going to lose this game. I don't know why he picked his boys. Because, you know, he's a believer. And I told him earlier in the season, nobody ever wants to believe their team's season is over. It's tough to admit that. I told him that a while ago. And his team, to his team's credit, they fought. At this point, to be 4-4 going into this game with a chance to get to 5-4 and be in the divisional race, That was impressive on their part. But the jig's up. You know, they're a one-dimensional team. And if you can stop their run game and make Drew Stanton beat you, you got him. And so he's going to continue to make this mistake. He's going to think his team can win some more games, and he's going to lose. And if you go by his thought process, every time the Cardinals lose, he wins double-digit games. He keeps telling us that over and over and over. Well, that shit's going to stop eventually. You think every time the Cardinals loses a game, you're going to win 13, 12, 11, 10 wins? Hell no. That's just going to stop at some point. You're just going to lose. Like, you pick the Cardinals, and that's going to add to the number of losses you have for that week, and it's going to start to pile up on them. And so, again, I'm at the point now, and I tell Redskins fans this all the time because they love worrying about what the Cowboys, what the Eagles, the Giants doing. Don't worry about nobody else but yourself. If we take care of our business, we'll be just fine when it's all said and done. That's the biggest thing. If you're a team out there and you're trying to make it to the playoffs, don't worry about what that team. Only time you start worrying about what other teams are doing is when you didn't do enough to put yourself in a position where you control the outcome of your season. That's when you got to start worrying about, did this team win? Did that team win? Did that team win? But if you worry about yourself for 16 weeks, then guess what? At the end of the season, you don't have to worry about, in week 17, did the Jets beat the Bills? You don't have to worry about that. You don't got to worry about, man, I hope the Cowboys beat the Eagles. You don't got to worry about that. You know why? Because you took care of your business, and all you got to do is worry about yourself. You win the game in week 17, you go into the playoffs. That's what you want, to be able to control the outcome of your season. Appreciate that, Sean Mack. I actually don't even know how that thing works. You're the first person to actually use it. Do I click on it? I don't know. I don't even know how that thing works, man, to be honest with you, the super chat thing. I just activated it because somebody told me, hey, just activate it. So why the hell not, right? It's pretty dope, though. Oh, here it is. I clicked on it. It says, hashtag Louie T Live, all the way to the top, bro. You got this. Damn right. We're gonna take this thing to the top, man. There's going to be people like you, Sean Mack, that's going to help me get there, bro. Straight up. No doubt about it. No doubt about it. Sean Mack also says, Samuel was stuck behind Hyde than Zeke, so he couldn't show himself a lot. McCaffrey is better out of the slot, and so that will create a mismatch for him, either him or Samuel, a win for both. I agree with you. Samuel did have it tough at Ohio State because he was behind such talented running backs. And they just wanted to get him on the field and get him touches. And I think they need to do the same thing in Carolina. Just get this man touches. Right now, I think he's doubting himself because he doesn't know where he fits in. And he hasn't really had a true role on the team. And so I think he's starting to doubt himself confidence-wise. And I think they need to get him confidence by getting him touches out in space. It's pretty neat, though. That super chat thing is pretty neat. Netzel's Toy 01 says, not related to this game, but do you have a football sports background or do you just love the game? I didn't play at a high level. Last level I played at, it was high school. I was a baseball guy, and I got to football so late. My problem was my mom didn't want me to play football. I played basketball, baseball when I was a kid. My mom didn't want me to play football because she thought I was going to get hurt. And I was a pretty skinny kid growing up. I didn't start to fill out my frame until I got into college. So I was a pretty thin guy, and my mom didn't want me to get hurt, and so she wouldn't let me play football. And I was busy playing basketball and baseball anyway, so it wasn't a big deal until I got to high school and I really wanted to play because I loved football. My favorite sport growing up was basketball, and my favorite sport to play was baseball. And then as you get older, baseball becomes boring, and basketball, you start to realize if I'm not 6'5", I'm going nowhere with basketball. You know what I mean? Like my handles were never great in basketball, but I got the jumper is wet. If you want it, you can get it from the 3-point line. I give it to you all day long. The step back fade away, perfect. Okay, MJ fade away, perfect. I give it to you any way you want it. The jumper's wet, but the handles. I'm a 3-and-D guy. So as you get to high school, I played basketball, but you know, there's no place for a 6-foot guy that all my life I was taller than everybody else. So even in middle school, in basketball, I was playing the 4. You know what I mean? So I never really developed the handles that I should have because when I was little, I played the 4. When I was in middle school, I played the 4. So when I got to high school, they're like, hey, now you 6 feet. You a 2 guard. Well, shit, I can't dribble now. So, well, damn. You know, my handles ain't where they need to be at the high school level to contribute the way I need to. And so I was like, well, I want to play. I need a sport to pick up now as I'm about to drop basketball off because I played JV. I didn't play varsity. I need a sport to pick up. And so I finally got a chance to play football, but I was so late to the game. I didn't understand anything about football from a playing standpoint. Like I was so busy trying to catch up to all these dudes that had been playing football their entire life. Verbiage and terminology, just getting the play call down, knowing what my responsibility. If you played football your entire life, you hear a couple of words out of the play call, you know exactly what you do. I had no idea. I didn't know how to form tackle, none of that stuff. Everything was brand new to me. So by the time I caught up to everybody, it was too late. And I felt like this, though. I was such an athlete, though. I went to a predominantly run-heavy school. Every year that I played football, we had at least a 1,000-yard rusher. In 2 of my 3 years that I played football, we had 2,000-yard rushers, which tells you all you need to know. We ran the football a ton. And we had some big-time receivers, and even they didn't get the shine that they deserve. If I would have went to, like, Lansdowne, where Percival Harvin went, and he played at the same time I played, had I went to a school like he did, man, out in the beach, and I know some of y'all don't know what the hell I'm talking about, but where we're from, one of the cities is Virginia Beach. It's probably, and a lot of you have heard of Virginia Beach, even if you're not from here, because it's one of the biggest tourist attractions in the country. So in Virginia Beach, the offenses are spread out. It's wide open, 4 and 5 receiver sets. They're letting their quarterback, like they actually develop quarterbacks in Virginia Beach. In Norfolk, we got athletes at quarterback, dual threat quarterbacks, dudes that can throw, but their first inclination is to run, and we're running read option and spread, and I went to one of those schools where the receivers, they didn't get a lot of love. So if I would have got a chance to play somewhere else, I think I would have had a chance to actually play football. But I'm kind of glad I didn't because football is such a physical sport, man. Like, I remember I injured my groin my junior year in football. I injured my groin. And that shit was a nagging injury the entire year. It never got healthy because you're going out, you're practicing every day, you play, and it never gets a chance to heal. And it's just like, damn, this is what these dudes go through. You wake up on Monday, or in our case, you play Friday night, Saturday, and you sore as hell, or after practice, a tough practice, you sore, you know what I mean? You get hit, you fall on your shoulder wrong, now your shoulder kind of bruised, you got a swollen hand, you know, just dumb stuff, little knick-knack injuries, and that shit doesn't heal until the season's over with. It's crazy, man. Football is a physical sport. Vincent Cole says, another great video, Lou. Have a good night. Looking forward to your videos this weekend. Hey, appreciate it, Vincent Cole, man. Good night, man. Have a good one. Vegeta's Dark Side says, man, this weekend going to be fun. Another easy one for the Vikings. LOL, he said, just joking, but in seriousness, looking forward to this Sunday. I am too, man. Should be a fun game. Brandon Sullivan says, Jermaine Ifedi is at tackle now for us, the guy out of Texas A&M. I think you meant Ethan out of LSU. He went from tackle to guard. I actually was talking about Jermaine Ifedi, but you guys kicked him outside to tackle. I think he's at right tackle now. We'll see how that works. And if he's able to hold it down at right tackle, because he started out as a right guard for you guys. And I think you feel like you have enough talent at guard with Luke Jokel, who is injured right now. Ethan Posick out of LSU that can play tackle, guard, or center. Obviously, you guys love Justin Britt at center. He's been outstanding for you. So you feel like you've got some stuff. I don't know how you feel about Mark Glowinski, but, I mean, the line is starting to come together. It's starting to come together in Seattle, and we'll see how he does out at tackle in Jermaine Ifedi, and we'll see if you get your prized possession back at the tackle position that you just traded for in Dwayne Brown. Again, me showing my age. Stevie D says, oh, what just happened? Oh, here we go. Stevie D says, my Raiders offense has been terrible this year. Do you think the firing of offensive coordinator Bill Musgrave was a mistake? Todd Downing has been a terrible play caller. You got to give him some time. I think, because of the success the Raiders had last year, it was going to be tough for Todd Downing to come in and live up to the success. Similar to what you've seen from the Atlanta Falcons. Because of the success that you saw out of Kyle Shanahan in Atlanta, it's been tough for Steve Sarkisian to live up to what Kyle Shanahan did last year. And same thing could be said for the Raiders. Todd Downing is a first-time play caller. This is all new to him. Even though he's been around it, it's new to him. He's still kind of filling out the process. And guys aren't helping him. And I said the same thing about Sark. Guys aren't helping, though. How many drops has Amari Cooper had this year? How many drops has Krabs had? How many drops has Jared Cook Jr. had? I mean, the run game has been ineffective. They're not helping Todd Downing out. Instead of it being 2nd and 2 after an 8-yard completion on first down on Amari Cooper, it's 2nd and 10. It changes your whole thought process on how you call the game because dudes aren't making plays. Instead of a catch on 2nd and 10 that makes it 3rd and 5, it's a drop by Amari Cooper. So now it's 3rd and 10. It changes your play call. And it makes it a lot tougher for you as a play caller when guys aren't helping you out. So it's tough. Vegeta's Dark Side says, will Zeke play this weekend? LOL. Not this time. He ain't wiggling his way out of it this time. Brandon Sullivan says, we have taken 3 offensive linemen in the first round since 2010. Russell Okung, Carpenter, and Jermaine Ifedi. Okung, only one drafted in the top 10. Other 2 were at the end of the first round. Yeah, Russell Okung. I remember that draft because as a Redskin fan, I didn't know which one because that was the 2010 draft with Okung and Trent Williams were the 2 big tackles in that draft. And we needed a tackle. Redskins did. And the Seahawks were in front of us. And I didn't know if I wanted Okung. Everybody was trying to make it seem like Okung was the better of the 2, more technically sound. Williams was the much better athlete, but he also had some off-the-field issues. And so he was like a wild card. And he was coming from a spread offense at Oklahoma. And so everybody kind of said, Okung's the better of the 2. And I was a little nervous because the Seahawks took Okung and we took Trent Williams. And I'm so glad it worked out that way because Okung, 1, couldn't stay healthy. 2, just wasn't the better of the 2. He's not a better athlete, which we already knew. And he wasn't more technically sound than Trent Williams. And even when Trent loses and he misses, he still wins because of his athleticism. So I'm glad that we didn't get him. But Sean Mack says, just follow me, bro. I'll get you back on track. Hey, it's been crazy how consistent you've been this year. It's ridiculous, man. Vegeta's Dark Side says, what's up with the like button? It's going up all the time. I entered this on my PC. It's reading at 357. I don't even know what you're talking about. What like button? I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know what you're talking about. I'm confused. There's no way. Yeah, I don't know. Somebody might be hacking it or something. There's no way there's that many people watching, man. Anyway, Sean Mack says, I was football in the fall, wrestling in the winter, track in the spring. I boxed as well the whole time. I stink at basketball and baseball, LOL. I was supposed to run track in the spring. That's part of the reason my football coach didn't like me. If you didn't run track, because he was the track and football coach, and obviously football and track go hand in hand. If you didn't run track in the spring, he really didn't give you a chance to play football in the fall. And I was a baseball guy, so I didn't have a choice. So, it was what it was. I wasn't giving up baseball because I was better at baseball than I was at football. So, Brandon Sullivan says, Okung helped us to a Super Bowl. However, Williams has shown he is one of the best left tackles. We should have drafted him. Man, didn't realize we missed him. That sucks. Yeah, I remember that draft like it was yesterday because those were the 2 tackles in that draft. And I wasn't sure if, we were going to get the right one. And I don't know if the Seahawks, I think the Seahawks drafted before us. And we ended up taking Williams because you took Okung. It might have been the Redskins went first and took Williams instead of Okung. I can't remember. But in any event, we got the right one. That was the moral of that story. Vegeta Darkside says, the like button for the... Okay, I get what you're saying now that I looked up And I saw the whole peak concurrent and all that stuff. There's no way. Anyway. Cloud says, what high school did you go to, if you don't mind me asking? I went to Lake Taylor High School in Virginia. So that is where I went to high school at. And that's going to conclude it for tonight's video. Hey, I really appreciate y'all joining me on the show. The Seahawks get the win 22-16 on the road versus the Arizona Cardinals, but at what cost? Obviously, Dick Sherman done for the season with a torn Achilles tendon. But what other casualties did you suffer in this game? How serious is the Cam Chancellor injury? How serious are the injuries to Clark and Richardson? How severe is the Jaron Reed injury? Obviously, a lot of injuries in this game. What about Dwayne Brown's injury at the left tackle position? So many questions, not enough answers injury-wise. Got to stay tuned for that. But in any event, you go on the road in a tough, hostile environment in the division and win. Put yourself in a position, I think, at 6-3 to win this division. I still think you're going to win that division because I expect you to sweep the Rams. It's going to be a huge game, but you can't overlook some of the games. You got Dallas down the road. You still got Philadelphia. That's going to be a massive game. I hope that's on primetime television. It's going to be a massive game. And they've got to come to you, if I'm not mistaken. Because the Redskins went to Seattle. Dallas has Seattle at home. The Giants probably have Seattle at home. So I think Philadelphia is going to have to go to Seattle. That's going to be a massive matchup. And that's why I said even Philadelphia's got some big games. Seattle, Los Angeles, Dallas twice. Philly's schedule is about to get real. So it's going to be interesting. The NFC is going to beat up on each other, but this was a big win for Seattle, 22-16 over the Cardinals. For the Cardinals, tough loss. But, I mean, with no Carson Palmer and, your run game really being a pivotal part of your offense, if it doesn't get going, you're going to struggle. Adrian Peterson, 21 carries, 29 yards. Going to be tough for you to win. But the supporting cast did not help out Drew Stanton in this game. A lot of drops, a lot of missed opportunities. They don't get it done. They dropped to 4-5 on the season. That's going to do it for your man Louie T here on Thursday Night Football Overtime. It happens in the National Football League, whether big or small. We cover it all here on the Louie T Network. Come back and join me as I continue to break down anything and everything in the National Football League. I'll see you guys next time. Thanks for joining me. Have a good one. I'll see you guys later on down the line. Enjoy your weekend.